The same about you. I tell people,
Really?
I'm like, her energy is always so genuine. It doesn't matter if we're like not in front of cameras. It's like just...
How would you describe this portion of your life?
This stage is
Tequila and Sprite.
margarita.
What if the very person meant to launch your career was the one secretly holding you back? Chloe Bailey was handpicked by Beyonce herself. She had the talent, the look, the machine behind her. But now she's sending cryptic warnings, hinting at betrayal, control, and a hidden power play that's left her career in chaos. And here's the wild part. She's not just talking about the industry. She's talking about spiritual warfare, manipulation, and her own sister possibly crossing a line she refused to. So what really went down behind the scenes of Chloe Bailey's fall from grace? And was Beyonce the mastermind all along? It was supposed to be just another live session. Fans tuned in expecting the usual updates, smiles, maybe a few music teases. But what they got was something entirely different. Chloe Bailey didn't just go live.
I mean, listen, man, 10,000 records the first week. This whole thing is not a sprint, it's a marathon. You know what I mean? So you might sell 10,000.
She cracked open the door to something darker, something she's been holding back for years. Tears streamed down her face as she spoke. But it wasn't just sadness, it was grief, disillusionment, a quiet rage simmering just beneath the surface. And if you listened between the lines, it wasn't hard to figure out who her words were really aimed at. She started by talking about the movie Sinners, a story that, on the surface, seems unrelated. A gifted musician caught between light and darkness, given the option to sacrifice his soul for eternal fame. But as Chloe explained why the story hit her so hard, everything changed. She said watching that character's journey broke her because it felt exactly like what she sees around her every day.
Beyoncé rages after Chloe Bailey exposes she sacrifices artists. Beyoncé is reportedly furious after
The same pressure, the same whispers, the same doors that only open when you agree to something unspoken. And just like that, it stopped being about a movie. She wasn't describing a fictional character, she was describing herself. She talked about people who refused to go to the other side, people who stayed grounded in faith and integrity. Those people, she said, are the ones who suffer the most. They're stuck fighting to be seen, to be heard, to be taken seriously. Meanwhile, the ones who gave in, they're being rewarded, praised, elevated, handed the very things the others were denied. And here's the part that shook fans to the core.
Chloe Bailey accuses Beyoncé of trying to take control of her spirit. Chloe Bailey is making headlines after
Chloe said she's one of the ones who didn't give in. She described the loneliness of it, the frustration, how it feels to know you're talented, disciplined, and authentic, and still not enough. And whether she said Beyoncé's name out loud or not, the dots weren't hard to connect. Because whenever someone speaks about darkness in the entertainment world, about spiritual compromises, deals behind closed doors, or unexplained shifts in fortune, there's always one name that ends up in the conversation. And that name is Beyoncé. The timing of Chloe's message wasn't lost on anyone either. Just months earlier, rumors had already been swirling about tension between the Bailey sisters.
Beyoncé furious after Chloe Bailey accuses her of sacrificing fellow artists. Beyoncé is reportedly furious.
People noticed that Chloe seemed dimmer, quieter, while Halle's star was rising rapidly, snagging major film roles, red carpet placements, and award nominations. Two sisters who used to move as a unit were suddenly on different planets. And when Chloe said, no matter how good of a person you are, no matter how talented, sometimes that's not enough. It felt like a subtle call-out, not just of the industry, but of the people closest to her who may have made different choices. This wasn't some vague Hollywood rant. It was a carefully coded confession. Chloe was hinting at spiritual manipulation, at pressure to conform.
Here's a picture of you and Beyonce. And look at you as a, I mean, how was
at betrayal from someone she once trusted to guide her career. And maybe even from someone in her own family. And more importantly, she was warning others. This isn't about talent. It's about submission. It's about the price you're willing to pay. And the message was chilling. Khloe refused. She made her choice, she stayed true, and in return, she watched everything slow down. Her albums underperforming, her visibility fading, her spotlight dimming while others shined. But what if that wasn't an accident? What if someone made sure her light never reached its full power? What if the industry didn't just ignore her, it punished her? Because that's the part no one can shake. When Khloe cried on that live, it wasn't just pain, it was...
Chloe Bailey shades Beyoncé for trying to steal her soul. A series of viral YouTube shorts and clips have
the sound of someone who knows too much. Someone who saw what really goes on at the top and chose to walk away from it. And that's when the real questions began to surface. Who gave her the ultimatum? Who benefited when she said no? And what exactly was she asked to give up? Her voice, her values, or her soul? Chloe Bailey was never supposed to be struggling. In fact, if you rewind just a few years, people were calling her the future. The voice, flawless, the stage presence, magnetic, the look, designer ready. She had it all, and then some. Not only was she performing with precision, but she was doing it with soul.
2003, Khloe snagged her first gig as the little girl version of Beyoncé's character in the film Fighting Temptations.
She wasn't a product of a machine. She was born to do this. And to top it all off, she had Beyoncé co-signing her at every turn. That should have been the cheat code, the golden ticket. So why does it feel like she's still trying to break through? Because no matter how many viral performances she gave, no matter how many hours she spent perfecting her craft, the numbers just weren't adding up. Album streams came in lower than expected. Her tours didn't sell out the way they should have. Singles dropped and vanished. And while fans kept saying she deserves better, the industry just didn't seem to care. And that's when the whispers started. Maybe it wasn't a marketing problem. Maybe it wasn't timing. Maybe...
Now, you get Beyonce comparisons. Have you spoken to Beyonce herself about those?
I love her so much. And, you know, we talk about...
Khloe was being held back, not by bad luck, but by design. Think about it. She had the machine behind her, full label backing, star mentors, high-profile performances. Even her visuals looked like blockbuster productions. Artists with half her talent and none of her work ethic were landing chart toppers and headlining arenas. So why was Khloe stuck in neutral? It wasn't just the numbers that raised red flags. It was the way things kept falling through. Promos that didn't hit, singles that didn't connect, projects announced and then suddenly quiet. Something always seemed off.
You see Sinners? Yes, I saw Sinners. It was phenomenal. Can I be honest? After Sinners, I cried. Do you know why I cried? Yes or no? Or you're just like Chloe?
Like there was an invisible weight pulling her down just as she was starting to rise. And when you look at the bigger picture, that weight starts to look a lot like sabotage. Fans started to question the decisions being made around her. For example, why was her debut album rollout so chaotic? Why was there a disconnect between what she wanted and what actually got released? Why was her team ignoring her fans' input and pushing singles that nobody asked for? More importantly, who was calling the shots? Because Khloe wasn't just any new artist. She was signed to Parkwood, Beyoncé's own label. And while that sounds empowering on paper, the reality might be a lot more complicated.
You are not Beyonce! And that's what I said to her friend, and that's what I'm you on this internet. You are not Beyonce, Khloe.
Behind the scenes, Parkwood has a history that fans are only now starting to unpack. A pattern of promising talent that never quite makes it. And Khloe, it seems, might just be the latest name on that list. It's not that she lacks talent, far from it. It's that the room seems colder when she walks in. The playlists forget to add her. The headlines skip over her name. It's like someone flipped a switch and decided, she doesn't get to win. Not right now. Not like this. And the deeper you go, the more that question lingers in the air. Is this just industry politics, or is it punishment? Because talent doesn't just disappear.
I'm watching this video by Cameron Suzanne on YouTube called The Duo That Should Have Never Split Up, and it's about
fans don't just stop caring overnight. Something or someone is standing in Khloe's way. And if her recent confessions mean what we think they do, she might already know exactly who it is. And that brings us straight to the label that promised her everything and delivered something very different. When Chloe and Halle signed to Parkwood Entertainment, it was seen as a dream come true. Imagine being handpicked by Beyoncé, mentored by the biggest artist of her generation, given the keys to a kingdom most artists could only dream of entering. That should have been the start of a dynasty. But now it's starting to look more like a trap. Because the deeper fans dig into Parkwood, the more unsettling the pattern becomes.
I will never forgive Chloe and Halle Bailey. Cause how y'all drop a masterpiece like The Ungodly Hour and then turn around?
Let's be honest, Parkwood is Beyoncé's world. Every decision, every release, every move filters through her lens. That means when things go right, she gets the praise. But when things go wrong, the silence is deafening. And Chloe Bailey might be the loudest example of that silence yet. Chloe came in with momentum. She and Halle had built a solid fan base. They had chemistry, sisterhood, and undeniable talent. But once they officially went solo under the Parkwood umbrella, things started shifting, and not in the way you'd expect. Chloe's rollout felt...
So I saw Beyonce Jr.'s music video, and I don't think Chloe Bailey understood the assignment of what it means to be a solo.
Off. Her singles didn't match her fans' demands. Her visuals screamed money, but the music misaligned. One moment, she was being promoted as the next big icon. The next, it was radio silence. Projects came and went with barely a whisper. And when fans begged for clarity, Chloe's responses only made things more confusing. That's when people started looking at the label itself. Because Chloe wasn't the first Parkwood artist to go quiet. She wasn't the first to be built up with hype, only to be shelved quietly when things didn't go a certain way. Take Sophie Beam, a young artist signed with a huge rollout. She had Beyoncé's stamp of approval, promising features, and major potential.
As a person, as an artist, I don't know if she knows who she is.
But after being told she wasn't ready, Sophie spent 2 years in development hell, then vanished from the spotlight altogether. Then there's Ingrid Burley, another Parkwood signee who had the talent and an album ready to go. But Parkwood refused to release it. It sat on a shelf until her contract expired. No album, no closure, just silence. And now all eyes are on Chloe. Because unlike Sophie or Ingrid, Chloe had a platform before Parkwood. She had fans, visibility, influence, and still, it feels like she's being put through the same cycle. The music delays, the singles that don't stick, the absence of real promotion, and maybe most revealing, the control.
She is incredibly talented. Yes. And one thing that bothered me was when Tate McRae went viral recently, everybody...
Take her single, Surprise, for example. Fans had clearly voted for the Night as the next release. The numbers weren't even close. But Chloe ignored the results. And when asked why, she dropped a single sentence that made jaws drop. When the Queen speaks, the Queen speaks. That was all she said, but it was all she needed to say. Beyoncé wanted Surprise, and so that's what dropped. Not the song Chloe's fans wanted, not the one she believed in, the one Beyoncé chose. Suddenly, this didn't feel like mentorship anymore. It felt like control. Because if Beyoncé is calling every shot down to which song gets released, then how much of Chloe's career is even her own anymore?
So Chloe Bailey's debut solo album is finally out, and honestly, I'm here for it, but the album is getting...
And what happens when an artist like Chloe doesn't agree? What happens when she pushes back? Does she get support or does she get silenced? The uncomfortable truth is that Parkwood, for all its promises, has only ever produced one major success story, and it's Beyoncé herself. Other artists have come and gone. Their names are footnotes. Their music unreleased. And now, Khloe's fans are starting to wonder if she's just another casualty. Another bright light dimmed before it could shine too brightly. Because when you look at the full picture, one thing becomes painfully clear. The only person who thrives under Parkwood is the person running it. And for Khloe, that reality may be sinking in faster than anyone expected.
The hate was relentless. Every post, every outfit, every performance, picked apart, criticized, and turned into a...
For years, whispers about the entertainment industry being dark were shrugged off as conspiracy talk. Just internet noise. But now, with Chloe Bailey hinting at something deeper, something spiritual, the conversation is changing, and fast. Because when Khloe cried on live and said it's not enough to just be talented or a good person anymore, she wasn't just talking about rejection. She was talking about a system that punishes purity and rewards submission. She explained how the character in Sinners had to give up a piece of himself, his soul, to achieve fame and fortune. And she said that hit too close to home, not just because she saw it happening to others.
I don't know who Chloe Bailey needs to get linked up with, but she needs to give us a loud. I think it's interesting that people looked at I need Chloe that bitch to be so
But because she saw the exact same offer being laid at her feet. Give in and you rise, stay true and you suffer. That's the decision she says she was forced to face, and the way she tells it, she said no. She chose to protect herself spiritually and emotionally, but refusing to play the game, that comes with consequences. It's the kind of thing fans have heard about before, but never from someone this close to the power players. People have speculated for years about rituals, secret societies, and soul contracts in the entertainment world. And one name always gets dragged into those theories: Beyoncé. Whether it's the Illuminati rumors, the cryptic imagery, or the coded lyrics.
For a while, it took me
10 years, Khloe.
Stop it!
A decade.
I could not make her reach orgasm.
You can't get to know.
Beyoncé's name has been linked to the darker side of fame for over a decade. Some call it nonsense. Others swear by it. But the one constant? When someone starts speaking about darkness, sacrifice, or spiritual warfare in the industry, Beyoncé's name is always on the tip of someone's tongue. So when Khloe began drawing parallels between her struggles and the spiritual weight of the industry, people didn't have to guess long. And even without saying Beyoncé's name out loud, she practically carved it into the air. The timing, the imagery, the betrayal, it all pointed in one direction. Because if Khloe is telling the truth, she wasn't just offered a bad contract. She was offered a path.
I lower my frequency to match you, or do I rise above it? I'm gonna rise above it and I'm gonna pray it away.
One that involved crossing personal and spiritual boundaries. One that came with success, if she was willing to give up the one thing she still had, her soul. And here's where it gets even darker. Fans have started analyzing everything: the performances, the lyrics, even the fashion. Khloe's earlier visuals were bold, powerful, feminine. But once the industry push began, people noticed a shift. More hypersexuality, more symbolism, more shadows, and less Khloe. It was like she was being remolded into something. That wasn't her. And maybe that's what broke her, because no matter how glossy the production, you can't fake authenticity.
So Beyonce was the first official listener of music from The Little Mermaid, and it got her stamp of approval.
Khloe knew she was being turned into an image that didn't reflect who she really was. She knew what the game was trying to make her become, and when she resisted, they didn't clap back publicly, they just let her drown quietly. And that's why this moment feels so explosive. Khloe's not naming names, but she's saying just enough to make people start connecting dots. She's describing an industry where the price of success isn't just money or hard work. It's spiritual alignment. It's loyalty to something most people will never see. And if Beyoncé is at the top of that structure, what does that say about the choices she made to get there? this isn't just about missed singles anymore. It's not about album sales. It's about something much darker.
One moment you all say that I talk about God too much, and the next you say I'm selling my soul. Which is it, my loves?
What does it really cost to win in this business? And what happens when you say no? For Khloe, it seems the answer is playing out in real time, and she's finally letting the world in on why. For a while, Khloe tried to play the game. She stayed quiet. She followed the formula. She didn't speak out publicly even as things around her started to crumble. But when fans asked her about her music, why certain songs dropped, why others didn't, something slipped. And it was small, just a moment, but it said everything. It happened during a live session when fans asked why she didn't release the track For the Night, the one they had overwhelmingly voted for in an online poll.
Oh my God, my baby Chloe Bailey looking so good every year.
Instead, Khloe dropped a different single called Surprise, a decision that left fans confused and disappointed. They thought this was her era, her choice, her moment. But Khloe's answer exposed the truth. She smiled nervously, looked down, and said one line that stopped everyone in their tracks. When the Queen speaks, the Queen speaks. She didn't say Beyoncé's name, but there was no need to. Everyone knew exactly who the Queen was. Khloe didn't even try to pretend it was her own decision. And just like that, the illusion shattered. This wasn't about artistic control. It wasn't about creative freedom. It was about power and who actually holds it.
People are really fighting me tooth and nail when I said that Beyoncé purposely messed up.
Because Beyoncé isn't just Khloe's label head. She's her mentor, her gatekeeper, her boss. And when Beyoncé says drop this song, it doesn't matter what the fans want. It doesn't even matter what Khloe wants. The decision's already been made. But here's where it gets twisted. Beyoncé has built an empire off empowerment, independence, and female agency. So how is it that an artist under her label, the one she handpicked, is being overridden on something as basic as choosing her own single? That's not mentorship. That's control. And what makes it worse is that this didn't feel like an isolated incident.
Now, what if I said that Chloe and Halle haven't dropped an album since Ungodly Hour in 2020 because they're going to be featured on Beyonce's act?
It felt like a pattern. Khloe pushing for one thing only to be redirected. Khloe showing up with a vision only to be reshaped into something else. The more fans looked back, the more moments they found. Interviews where Khloe seemed unsure, launch rollouts that felt rushed or misaligned, and music that didn't reflect the version of her fans had grown to love. Some even say this was the turning point, the moment Khloe began to realize that she wasn't in charge of her own career, that her image, her voice, her decisions were no longer hers. Because if you're being forced to release songs you didn't choose, if your creative choices are being ignored and your instincts silenced,
was Beyonce the first person to listen to the album? So I was so happy.
How different is that really from being spiritually manipulated? Especially when the person calling the shots is the same person the world sees as your savior. It's a mind game, a trap, the kind of quiet betrayal that doesn't come with a big blowout, but a slow erosion of power. And for someone like Khloe, who's built her brand on authenticity, that kind of pressure cuts deeper than any headline. Because it's not just about making a hit, it's about being forced to become someone you're not. And as Khloe begins to push back, publicly, subtly, bravely, fans are starting to realize that this wasn't just about music. This was about identity, about control, about the silent cost of refusing to bow.
Sorry that you got cheated on.
It's all right. Been a couple times. You know, I feel like
Really?
no matter how bad of a bitch.
And maybe, just maybe, it's also about revenge. Because when someone refuses to follow the script, the industry doesn't usually clap back loudly. They just make sure you disappear. Once upon a time, Chloe and Halle were inseparable. Two sisters, two voices, one unbreakable bond. They moved like a unit, harmonizing on stage, finishing each other's sentences in interviews, and standing shoulder to shoulder in every spotlight they earned. To fans, they weren't just a duo, they were soulmates in sync, climbing the ranks of fame together. But somewhere along the way, something changed. At first, it was subtle.
The internet felt like Beyonce should have done more in regard to promoting your album. What do you have to say about it?
Separate appearances, solo ventures, fewer joint interviews, people chalked it up to career growth, two stars stepping into their own. But then came the silence. Khloe pushing her solo music, Halle diving headfirst into major acting roles. The split wasn't just physical, it was spiritual, emotional. You could feel it. And then the questions began. Why does Halle's career look like it's being elevated at light speed? Disney movies, luxury brand deals, solo Grammy nominations, while Khloe's is stalled, clunky, undercut at every turn. Why is one sister constantly booked and protected, while the other seems to be left behind?
When he's singing, he's honoring his ancestors and uplifting and all of that, but then it also attracts the not good.
At first, people thought it was just luck, timing. But after Khloe's emotional revelations, a new theory started to take shape. One that's not easy to say out loud, but impossible to ignore. What if Halle made the choice Khloe wouldn't? What if Halle said yes to the same offer Khloe turned down? Khloe spoke about people who gave in and got rewarded, about how the ones who kept their soul had to suffer while watching others celebrate. She never mentioned Halle by name, but how could she not be thinking of her? Because while Khloe was breaking down on Live, torn apart by the weight of rejection, Halle was overseas. On set, glowing, celebrated, surrounded by cameras and applause.
How is family life? Your nephew is a meme.
Yes.
How do you feel about your nephew being a meme?
While Khloe was dealing with underperforming albums and silence from her label, Halle was walking red carpets, shaking hands with A-listers, starring in blockbuster films. Same label, same mentor, same launch pad. Two completely different outcomes. The contrast couldn't be more brutal. And it's not just fans who noticed the shift. Body language changed, eye contact disappeared, social media interactions grew colder. The once warm, visible sisterhood began to fade into a professional distance. And the question now isn't just whether their careers are moving in opposite directions, it's whether their values are. Because if Khloe refused to sell out and if that refusal got her sidelined,
Khloe finally spilled the tea on why her career's been struggling, and she got real with fans during a TikTok live stream. She opened up about the movie Sinners, and while
then what does that say about Halle's rise? No one's accusing Halle of anything outright. But when one sister is punished for staying grounded and the other is thriving under the same system, people can't help but wonder what kind of choice was made behind closed doors. Some fans believe that's the real reason behind the duo's split. Not some casual decision to go solo, but a deeper divide, a spiritual separation. One sister chose the light even if it meant walking alone. The other followed the path laid out for her and got everything she was promised. And maybe that's why Khloe's voice trembles when she talks about the industry. Maybe that's why the tears come so easily.
So this time next year, you might have a gold to platinum project, in 6 months, you might have a gold to platinum project. So, you got to keep working, that's all.
Not just because she feels betrayed by the system, but because the person who used to stand beside her might now be standing on the other side. Sometimes the hardest part of staying true to yourself is watching someone you love walk away from everything you refuse to touch. And when that person rises while you sink, that pain hits different. For a long time, Chloe Bailey played the role she was given. She smiled when things fell apart. She stayed poised when questions got uncomfortable. She showed up, delivered, and kept quiet, even when it was obvious the machine wasn't working in her favor. But everyone has a limit, and Khloe, she's finally reaching hers.
Directly referring to Beyoncé.
Khloe, who rose to fame alongside her sister Halle under Beyoncé's mentorship, expressed
The live stream wasn't a meltdown. It was a shift, a crack in the surface, a moment where the real Khloe, the one behind the filters and flawless stage looks, let the truth bleed through. And in that truth was pain, frustration, and something deeper, awareness. Because now Khloe sees it clearly. The industry didn't just fail her. It boxed her in, gave her a script she never asked for, asked her to become someone she's not, and punished her for saying no. And for a while, she played along. Because that's what you're supposed to do when Beyoncé's backing you, right? Be grateful, be silent, be obedient.
artists for her own success. During a recent interview, Khloe hinted that some top figures in the music industry manipulate.
But Khloe isn't playing anymore. She's done pretending not to notice the sabotage. She's done acting like the control isn't real. She's done shrinking her spirit to make the system more comfortable. And it shows that every live stream she does now is laced with a little more honesty, a little more edge. She doesn't name names, but the energy is different. She's no longer begging the industry to see her. She's starting to see it for what it really is. And that scares people. Because when someone as talented, visible, and connected as Khloe starts talking, even indirectly, it sends a ripple. And people start asking the questions the industry hopes they never ask.
And even at the rap party, she'd hold me and we danced the night away.
Is that right?
Yeah, and even at the...
She is really unbelievably...
Why are certain artists pushed while others disappear? Why do some succeed after selling out, while others who stay true get buried? And what happens when the one person you trusted to protect you starts pulling strings behind your back? That's the energy Khloe is moving with now. Not bitterness, not rage, but clarity. And there's power in that. Because when an artist like her stops begging for approval and starts telling the truth, things start shaking. Her breakdown wasn't weakness, it was transformation. It was the sound of someone realizing the system was never meant to support her. It was built to control her. And now, with her career dangling and her name barely being promoted, she's not backing down. She's speaking more.
Has initiated fuel speculation that Bailey feels Beyoncé, or her management, limits her independence as an artist.
Showing more. Calling out the invisible weight she's been carrying. And maybe most importantly, she's refusing to disappear. Because that's what the industry does to women like her. The ones who say no, the ones who stay spiritual in a space that profits off soul selling. The ones who are too talented to ignore but too honest to control, they get silenced. But Khloe, she's not going quietly. And if you listen closely, you can already hear it. The beginning of her fight to take her voice back. Not just musically, but spiritually, emotionally, and professionally. She's not naming names. Not yet. But the message is getting louder. She knows what was done, she knows who did it, and she's not afraid anymore.
If you weren't anything special, no one would be putting in all this energy to stop you.
But fans aren't just backing Khloe on Sinners, they're also starting to think the real...
Khloe Bailey's story isn't just about one artist. It's a mirror reflecting the quiet chaos that lives behind the music industry's glossy surface. It's the story of a young woman with unmatched talent, poised for greatness, who found herself in a system that thrives on control, silence, and spiritual compromise. A system that smiles in your face while slowly stripping away everything that made you unique. And maybe that's why Khloe's message hits so hard, because this wasn't some dramatic feud. It wasn't petty label politics. It was something deeper, a battle of values, a quiet rebellion, a refusal to trade her light for someone else's vision.
Really resonate with it. And it also showed that what you have to give negativity permission to be inside.
She could have played along. She could have done what others did. Maybe she would have won Grammys by now. Maybe her name would be in every headline. But at what cost? She saw what was expected of her and she walked the other way. That decision might have derailed her chart placements, but it may have saved her soul. Meanwhile, the spotlight shines bright on others. Halle, once her closest ally, now floats on red carpets and Hollywood sets. And Beyoncé, the very woman who opened the door, now stands at the center of questions too uncomfortable to say out loud. Is this what mentorship looks like, or is it quiet manipulation dressed up as opportunity?
Making shade room black music knowing damn well that's not your audience. And Halle let a nigga that wasn't on her level baby mama her. Now
it's a pattern we've seen before. Talented artists who vanish too soon, who never click no matter how much they give. But Khloe isn't disappearing. She's starting to speak, starting to hint. And each time she does, the facade around her cracks just a little more. Because her career wasn't supposed to flop. Her light wasn't supposed to fade. Unless someone made sure it did. So now the question shifts away from Khloe and toward the industry itself. How many other artists said no and got buried? How many were rewarded not for talent, but for obedience? And how long can this game keep going before someone calls it out by name? Khloe hasn't dropped all the receipts, not yet. But the look in her eyes says it all. She's done playing nice, done pretending, and done protecting people who never protected her. This isn't just the end of a chapter. It might be the start of something much bigger. And if Khloe ever chooses to tell the full story, the industry might never recover.